Welcome to Land of the Bible. I'm David Sussman. Today, we're taking a journey through time, faith, and culture as we explore some of Jerusalem's most remarkable museums. Jerusalem is a city layered with meaning. Its stones carry the weight of ancient prophecy, sacred tradition, and national rebirth. But to truly understand Jerusalem, its people, its values, its soul, we must also step inside. Museums are more than places to look at the past. They are living classrooms, storytellers, and guardians of identity. In this episode, we visit the institutions that help us see Jerusalem not only as a holy city, but as a cultural, educational, and historical center of the modern world. From archaeology to innovation, from scripture to science, from wartime memory to artistic expression. These museums reveal the many faces of Jerusalem. So let's begin first with the Israel Museum. The Israel Museum is the crown jewel of Israeli culture, identity, and memory. But this is no ordinary museum. This is a time machine, a place where you can walk through 5,000 years of history, turn a corner, and suddenly you find yourself standing in front of a Torah ark from India, a fragment from the Second Temple, or a Picasso painting. And all of it curated under one breathtaking roof, right here in Jerusalem. So what is the Israel Museum? It's not just a collection of objects, it's a living dialogue between past and present, earth and spirit, exile and homecoming. It tells us what Jews prayed for in the temple, what they carried with them into exile, and what they dream of in modern Israel. And that's why this museum matters. It's not just about what we see behind the glass, it's about the story we are still writing. Welcome to the Israel Museum, where memory lives and identity breathes. The museum was designed in 1965 by architect Alfred Mansfeld and interior designer Dor Gad, two giants in Israeli design. They didn't build up, they built into the landscape. The museum follows the contours of the Judean hills with pale Jerusalem stone that reflects the natural light. It blends with the terrain rather than dominating it, echoing Israel's ancient architectural roots and modern sensibilities. Step into the archaeology wing and you're transported thousands of years back. Here are artifacts from the First and Second Temple periods unearthed by archaeologists. Capital from a column used in King David's palace, a silver amulet from the 7th century BCE bearing the priestly blessing, the oldest known biblical text, fragments of the temple vessels, weights from the holy precinct, and coins minted by rebels during the Great Revolt. Each item whispers a story of the Temple Mount, a sacrifice, a prayer, and national longing. They proved that Jerusalem wasn't just an idea, it was real, tangible, and sacred. Now we enter the Shrine of the Book, the white dome that rises above the black basalt pool, symbolizing the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Inside, you'll find one of the most profound discoveries of the 20th century, the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered by a Bedouin shepherd in 1947 near Qumran. These scrolls date back over 2,000 years. They include copies of nearly every book of the Hebrew Bible, sectarian texts from the Essenes, the community that lived in Qumran, a complete scroll of the prophecy of Isaiah, laid out in a dramatic circular display. And here's the incredible part. When scholars compared the scrolls of Isaiah to the version in your modern Hebrew Bible, they're almost identical. 2,000 years, barely a word changed. It tells us that the core of Judaism's sacred text has remained preserved, protected, and powerful through time. From ancient scrolls to global stories, enter the Jewish art and life wing. And suddenly, you're in Morocco, Italy, Yemen, or Germany. Here, entire synagogues from around the world have been carefully reconstructed, wood by wood, beam by beam. A stunning 18th century synagogue from Suriname with a sand-covered floor, just like in the original. A richly painted Italian synagogue sailing from the Baroque period. A wooden Bukhara synagogue with vibrant textiles. Each one reflects the Jewish people's ability to adapt and create beauty in every corner of the diaspora. Together, they tell a single story, a people scattered but spiritually united. And just when you think you've covered the whole museum, you step into the modern art wing. This is not just Israeli art, though the museum proudly features giants like Reuben, Nahum Gutman, and Menashe Kadishman. It's also home to works by Van Gogh, Chagall, Picasso, Jackson Pollock, and Andy Warhol, showing Israel's place in the global artistic conversation.
Imagine walking where Jesus walked, where faith comes to life. Feel the Bible story unfold around you, from the green Galilee to Jerusalem's ancient streets. Experience the serene and welcoming land of the Bible, where miracles happen. Put your heart where His footsteps are. Visit Israel.
Just across the street from the Israel Museum is the Bible Lands Museum, where the ancient world comes alive. Not just Israel, but the entire landscape in which the Bible unfolded. This museum is more than just a place of artifacts. It's a portal, a journey into the cultures, languages, and kingdoms that shape the biblical narrative. Let's begin with the story of its founder, Dr. Eli Borowski. He was a scholar, collector, and visionary who believed deeply in one idea. The future of mankind has its roots in the past. Only through understanding our history can we build a better future. Eli and his wife Batya founded this museum in 1992 to house his incredible private collection, not to glorify any empire, but to illuminate the Bible and the cultures mentioned in it. The Bible Lands Museum is the only museum in the world dedicated entirely to the ancient Near Eastern world, the lands where biblical events took place. It's not just about ancient Israel, it's about Mesopotamia, the birthplace of writing, Egypt, where the Israelites were enslaved, Anatolia, Canaan, Persia, Phoenicia, Greece, Rome, all biblical players. This museum contextualizes the Bible. It helps you see what life was like for Abraham, Moses, David, Esther, and the prophets. You understand their world not just spiritually, but materially, the daily tools, art, war, writing, and worship. You'll encounter the origins of writing and civilization. You'll see the earliest cuneiform tablets from Sumer and Akkad, clay contracts and laws, including comparisons to Hammurabi's code, and how civilizations were influenced by biblical law. It raises the question, how did ancient cultures lay the groundwork for the ethical revolution the Bible introduced? Step into the galleries of Egyptian artifacts, statues of gods, scarabs, funerary tools. These objects show us what life was like under Pharaoh and help bring life to the biblical story of the Exodus. You'll begin to feel the tension between the power of empire and the freedom of the Israelites. What daily life was like in Canaan and ancient Israel. You'll see household pottery and tools, jewelry and idols, and inscriptions in Hebrew, Phoenician, and Aramaic. You'll begin to ask, how did the Israelites maintain a unique monotheistic identity in a world filled with many gods? The Assyrian and Babylonian empires. Here are massive wall reliefs and war records from the Assyrians and Babylonians. You'll see the might of Sennacherib, who laid siege to Jerusalem, and Nebuchadnezzar, who destroyed the first temple. And suddenly, the Book of Kings and the Book of Jeremiah aren't just sacred texts. They're historical documents surrounded by real-world archaeological proof. This museum is not just about the past, it's about understanding today. It runs educational programs for schools, families, and even soldiers here in Israel. It partners with Christian and Muslim communities. It promotes dialogue between faith, archaeology, and scholarship. In recent years, the museum has added digital tours, 3D reconstructions, and interactive exhibits that help you visualize ancient cities and temple layouts. It's especially powerful for children and students who can now engage with history in a multi-sensory way. The Bible Lands Museum is where the Bible comes to life, not just as a book of faith, but as living history, grounded in real places and people. It's where a clay tablet can change the way you understand the book of Genesis, where a broken idol can illuminate the battle between monotheism and polytheism, and where every hallway reminds you that this ancient story is still our story. It is fitting to visit Yad Vashem next to see what happens when people fail to stand with truth, with moral clarity, and the Jewish people. Yad Vashem is Israel's national Holocaust memorial and museum. This is not just a museum, it is not just a memorial, it is a sacred place built on the side of a mountain where we confront humanity's greatest moral failure and where we reaffirm our responsibility to never let it happen again. This institution exists to ensure that every man, woman, and child who was murdered in the Holocaust will never be forgotten. Over 6 million Jewish lives were destroyed. Entire communities wiped off the map. But here, their stories are preserved, their faces, their names, their humanity. The Holocaust was not just a Jewish tragedy, it was a human tragedy. Because it wasn't just gas chambers that killed people, it was indifference, it was silence, it was the failure of good people to speak up. The vast majority of Europe was silent. Many collaborated, too few resisted. Let's now visit a place that honors those that were fighting to make sure never again means just that, never again. the underground prisoners museum located in the heart of Jerusalem. At first glance, this building might not seem extraordinary, but within these walls lies a story of pain, resistance, and the price of freedom. During the British Mandate of Palestine from 1917 to 1948, this building served as a central prison. But his prisoners were not common criminals. They were Zionist fighters, young men and women from the underground movements like the Haganah, Irgun, and Lehi, who were willing to risk their lives for a dream, the return of the Jewish people to their ancient homeland. The British, who controlled the land of Israel after World War I, promised both Arabs and Jews conflicting hopes for statehood. When Jewish immigration increased, especially as Jews fled persecution in Europe, tensions rose. To suppress Zionist resistance, the British arrested and imprisoned fighters, activists, and even Holocaust survivors who came illegally by boat. This prison became a symbol of that clash: British colonial control versus Jewish national aspiration. As we walk through these dark, echoing halls, you'll see original prison cells, solitary confinement rooms, and even a recreated gallows room. As this was not just a prison, it was also a place of execution. 3 Jewish underground fighters, Meir Feinstein, Moshe Barzani, and Dov Gruner, were executed by the British here. But their stories didn't end in death. They became legends of Zionist struggle. So why do we visit a prison on a trip to the Holy Land? Because freedom has a price. Because independence didn't just come with a UN vote. It came with sweat, tears, and yes, blood. These men and women were labeled terrorists by the occupying British colonialists. Today, they are remembered as freedom fighters, heroes, and founders of a nation. Israel's fight for freedom didn't end with the Independence War. Unfortunately, we had to continue and still continue to fight for our freedom and independence in our own land. Welcome to the Ammunition Hill Museum, one of the most significant and emotional battlegrounds of modern Israel. Right here, in the early hours of June 6, 1967, one of the most brutal and defining battles of the Six-Day War was fought. This wasn't just a battle for high ground. This was a battle for Jerusalem, for history, for the soul of a nation. In the spring of 1967, Israel's enemies closed in. Egypt blockaded Israeli shipping routes and moved troops into the Sinai. Syria shelled Israeli towns from the Golan. And Jordan, which then controlled East Jerusalem and all of Judea and Samaria, entered into a military pact with Egypt. Israel was outnumbered on all sides, and the sense of existential threat was real. What followed was a war that lasted just 6 days, but changed the map of the Middle East and the destiny of the Jewish people. At that time, Jerusalem was a divided city. The eastern part, including the Old City and the Western Wall, was under Jordanian rule. Jews were barred from visiting their holiest sites. Ammunition Hill was a fortified Jordanian military post, built by the British and used by the Arab legions. It was a key position, guarding the road between Mount Scopus and the rest of Jewish Jerusalem. To reunite the city, the IDF had to take this hill, and it would not come easy. In the dead of night, the 55th Paratroopers Brigade launched their assault. They expected only a handful of Jordanian defenders, but the trenches were packed. Over 100 Jordanian soldiers were dug in, well-armed and well-trained. What followed was a fierce hand-to-hand combat. Grenades, bayonets, bullets in narrow trenches. It was brutal. It was personal. In just 4 hours, 36 Israeli soldiers were killed. Many were just 19 or 20 years old, but they kept moving forward because they knew Jerusalem depended on them. Once Ammunition Hill was secured, the path to Mount Scopus was cleared. More importantly, it opened the way to the Old City. The next morning, on June 7th, Israeli forces entered through the Lion's Gate, and paratroopers ran to the Western Wall, many of them crying, others in disbelief. Jerusalem was reunified for the first time since 1948. Today, Ammunition Hill is not just a museum, it's a symbol of Israeli resilience. It reminds us that freedom isn't given, it's earned, often at a great cost. In these trenches, surrounded by enemy fire, young soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice so that Jewish people could once again stand freely in their eternal capital. So when we walk through these trenches today, we're not just walking through a battlefield, we're walking through history, through the courage of those who fought, through the dreams of those who fell, and through the victory of a people who came home after 2,000 years and will never let go again. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live.
I will bless those who bless you, God promised Abraham. Embrace this covenant by connecting with the people of Israel. From Jerusalem's stones to Galilee's shores, experience living faith through their traditions and hospitality. Your journey is more than visiting biblical sites. It's about hearts that welcome your friendship. Your presence matters. Discover Israel.
Right in the heart of Jerusalem, facing the Knesset and nestled between Israel's government, culture, and academia, this extraordinary building is not just a library, it's a living symbol of Jewish memory, heritage, and innovation. What began in 1892 as a few books in a small corner of Jerusalem is now one of the most cutting-edge cultural institutions in the world. This isn't your average library. It's a celebration of who we were, who we are, and who we're becoming. This breathtaking structure was designed by world-renowned architects. From the outside, it appears both ancient and futuristic. A low, curving structure of Jerusalem stone and glass that blends into the landscape. But as you approach, you'll notice the massive circular oculus, a wide opening in the roof that lets in natural sunlight, symbolizing the light of knowledge. Inside, it's warm and inviting, with wood-paneled walls, floating bookcases, open reading rooms, and panoramic views of Jerusalem. Now, what exists inside these walls? The new National Library houses over 5 million items, ancient Jewish manuscripts, Middle Eastern treasures from the Islamic faith, rare Christian texts, 2,500 years of cultural memory. It is the world's largest collection of Hebrew books. It preserves handwritten letters by Albert Einstein, Kafka, and Herzl, rare illuminated Torah scrolls, early Qurans, and even fragments of medieval Piyutim found in the Cairo Geniza. Its digital archive is enormous, digitalizing Hebrew newspapers from around the world, preserving Yiddish literature and archiving Jewish music and oral traditions from Morocco to Bukhara. This is a library of civilizations, not just a building of books. This isn't just about preservation, it's about innovation. The new library is fully digitalized. Visitors can interact with archives on giant screens, explore 3D renderings of ancient artifacts, and even listen to recorded folk songs from across the Jewish diaspora. There are spaces for public lectures, exhibitions, concerts, family programs, and even robotic systems behind the scenes retrieving books from vast underground vaults. It's a space that invites everyone, scholars, school children, soldiers, and tourists, to touch the story of the Jewish people. There's something powerful about the openness of this space. For the first time, anyone can walk in off the street and sit among students, rabbis, researchers, and artists in the main reading room. No membership, no ID required. The philosophy is simple. Knowledge should be democratic. the treasures of our past belong to everyone. So why should someone come here? Because in a world moving fast, the new National Library offers a moment of pause. It invites us to reflect on our past, to marvel at the cultural richness of Jewish life and our neighbors, and to imagine the future of human thought and creativity. It's a reminder that the Jewish people are not just about survival, we're about ideas, books, wisdom, and renewal. And that's why the library isn't hidden behind walls or gates. It is in the center of Jerusalem, facing the halls of power. And this library is a testament to the endurance of the human story. He was a tyrant and a visionary, a builder and a brutal ruler. King Herod the Great shaped the face of ancient Judea like no one before him. And though history remembers him as a tyrant, the stones of Israel remember him as something more. A city like Jerusalem can't be summed up in a single site. Its identity is far too deep, but in its museums we glimpse its many dimensions: historical, spiritual, intellectual, and emotional. These are not just places to visit, they're places to remember, to reflect, and to renew our connection to this remarkable city.